Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Log Wrong Tower, this is Albatross 1-3, requesting permission to land, over.
I don't need a computer to tell me how to land a damn airplane.
6.
Heads-up display, check.
5.
Lasers, check.
4.
Particle beam, check.
3.
Photon bolts, check.
2.
Chair control, check.
1.
Let's do it.
Why, hello there. I'm Robert Burnett, as if it need to be said, and I'm a recurring guest star on Docking Bay 77 podcast, but I'm sure you know that as well. As many of you know, I love the theater, and I talk about it often on the podcast. So tonight, I'm going to be sharing with you my top 7 stage to screen adaptations. Now, lately, a lot of films are going back and becoming plays, like Good Night, Good Luck, George Clooney, and 2 mini musicals to be named, Death Becomes Her, and all these. But before that, back in the golden era, it was the other way around. Movies were based on plays. Even Casablanca, although that play never got produced, they bought the script and they decided to go for the film version and all that. It was finally done in the 90s anyway. And of course, that was back when we had playwrights like Tennessee Williams and Neil Simon, who were household names. And every time Tennessee Williams wrote a hit play, it became a hit film. Neil Simon, same thing. But I went over kind of film history and found some of my favorite screen adaptations. Now, I put a few criteria on because it's always Robert's version. And I didn't want to talk about anything that we've talked about on the podcast before. So if you're wanting me to shout out West Side Story or Jeffrey or Hair or Gaslight or The Boyfriend or 6 Degrees of Separation or Little Shop of Horrors, look for those on other podcasts. We've talked about those before. I also gave myself the stipulation that it had to be an original play the film was based on. So things like Dracula or Dangerous Liaisons that were a book and then a play and then a film, toss those out as well. And my last little loophole I gave for myself was I needed to be familiar with them both. There's no point in talking about stage to screen if you're not familiar with the stage and the screen. So I made sure these are all plays I've either seen or have read. So they have a couple things in common. They are all very faithful to the original source material. I don't know if that was deliberate, but that's how it happened. They all are have been since revived or remade, so they are works that endure in many formats. And finally, weirdly, and it wasn't deliberate either, but lots of these have juicy parts for women. So curtain up, let's go with my top 7 stage-to-screen adaptations. Number 7, Salome's Last Dance, filmed by Ken Russell from 1988, based on Oscar Wilde's play from 1891. It's a retelling of the biblical story of Salome and John the Baptist. As you can imagine, it was written in French in verse and was so obscene it could not be performed in England until 1931. Ken Russell did a Ken Russell number on it, and wrote a framing device with Oscar Wilde himself seeing the play being performed in a bordello. But other than that, the play is almost verbatim, and it's really lovely and stylish, and Glenda Jackson has a terrific role. She's good in almost all his movies, and so you'll get to see Glenda Jackson. Number 6, Richard III, the 1995 film version with Ian McKellen, based on, of course, William Shakespeare's 1593, The Tragedy of Richard III. I had to have a Shakespeare on here. Now, my first thought was Kenneth Branagh. He'd done so many of those, but I like this one. And of course, we can't let a stage to screen go by without talking about all the one-off adaptations like Throne of Blood, which is Macbeth, and 10 Things I Hate About You, which is Taming of the Shrew, and The Lion King, which was Hamlet, and so on and so on. But the play, Richard III, was one of Shakespeare's longest plays, based on the historical King Richard. He wrote Richard as a villain to appease Queen Elizabeth, who was from the opposing house a few generations later. Lawrence Olivier did this film in 1955, but this one is from a stage production that Ian McKellen did with about half the script. They moved it up to the 1930s to an alternate Britain that now is a fascist country, so there's lots of big red and black and white banners. And amazing cast. Along with Sir Ian, we have Annette Bening, Robert Downey Jr., Maggie Smith, and dozens more. It's really spectacular. Even if you're not a Shakespeare fan, it's got tanks and bombs and action scenes. It's fantastic. Number five, Peter Pan. The play has been around since 1904 and Barry's film or play adaptation and has been, gosh, done as animation and films and plays and TV shows, and there's been sequels and all kinds of things. There was even Finding Neverland about J.M. Barrie himself before he wrote Peter Pan. But my favorite is, guess what? The Walt Disney version from 1953. They did tweak the play a little bit. It's not the most faithful, and they added some songs, but it's a terrific Disney movie from kind of their classic period. It was the last time that all nine of the nine old men worked on a Disney feature, and it was the first Peter Pan ever to have a boy play Peter Pan. It had always been a young woman or even an older woman on stage up till that point. Coincidentally, Walt Disney had asked Mary Martin to be the voice of Peter Pan several years before she ended up doing the TV version to great acclaim. Alrighty, number four. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? It is the Edward Albee play from 1962. The film came out in 1966 and was the directorial debut of Mike Nichols, who of course went on to great acclaim both in the stage and on screen. It's about two bickering couples, George and Martha, and a nameless couple who are known as Honey and, well, he's called lots of other things. But anyway, Nick, I think it's a nickname they end up with them most. The play was a huge smash. It won Best Play, Tony Award, Best Actor, Best Actress. Melinda Dillon, who we love in Close Encounters, played the role of Honey. Play almost got a Pulitzer Prize. It actually had a cast album in the 1960s, 4 LPs for the entire play, almost unheard of. The film version, though, is even better. Mike Nichols is at his amazing best. The film got 13 Academy Award nominations, every category it was eligible for. It's only one of two films that's happened for. Both the female leads, Elizabeth Taylor and Sandy Dennis, got their Oscars for that, so lots of awards for that one. Fantastic film. Ernest Lehman ostensibly is credited with the screenplay, but he basically wrote like camera directions on Albee's script, so it's very faithful. Number three, Sleuth by Anthony Shaffer, film by Anthony Shaffer. The play was from 1970. The film was from 1972. Skip the remake. It is deadly. But this one is fantastic. Laurence Olivier and Michael Caine in this twisty, turny kind of whodunit / comedy. Very funny. If you've seen Death Trap, it's similar to Death Trap, but better. It also won a Tony for Best Play and also got multiple Academy Award nominations. Olivier and Caine were both nominated for Best Actor and kind of canceled each other out, I believe, because neither one of them won. And directed by the amazing Joseph Mankiewicz, who had an illustrious film career. It was one of the last films he directed. Number two, Dinner at 8. The play was written in 1932 by George Kaufman with Edna Ferber. The film came out just a year later, 1933. Now, George Kaufman was an amazing playwright. He had shows on Broadway from 1921 to 1958, one show every season at least that he either wrote or directed. He did both. He won 2 Pulitzer Prizes for drama for You Can't Take It With You, which became a Frank Capra film, and Of Thee I Sing, a musical with the Gershwins, no slouches. He's probably remembered now by young theater fans because he wrote the original play that Merrily We Roll Along, the Jonathan Groff, Daniel Radcliffe musical, with music by, what's his name? Sondheim, put together. But Kaufman was amazing and funny. Dinner at 8 is one of my favorite adaptations of one of his plays because it's very, very faithful, very witty, very clever. A group of upper class people are meeting for dinner and you learn about all their foibles and mishaps. The cast is amazing in this one. John Barrymore, Lionel Barrymore, Jean Harlow, Billy Burke, Marie Dressler. She steals the show. Directed by the ineffable George Cukor, who we love. And finally, my number one, The Lion in Winter by James Goldman, both play and screenplay. The play was from 1966, the film 1968, about Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine, and the scrambling of their children as to who may inherit the crown after Henry is gone. Remarkably, the play had Robert Preston, the Music Man, Trouble in River City, playing medieval Henry II. The role was taken over for the film version wisely by Peter O'Toole, who I think brings a lot more authenticity and power probably to the role than Robert Preston. I keep thinking of of Henry II with his like straw hat on rather than a crown. Anyway, the young Christopher Walken appeared in the play. It was one of the first things he did on Broadway. It's been revived a few times with on stage with Lawrence Fishburne and Stockard Channing, and had a TV remake with Patrick Stewart and Glenn Close. Both Glenn Close won his Screen Actors Guild and Golden Globe. Rosemary Harris from the original play won a Tony. And guess what? The film version, Katharine Hepburn, got her Oscar for that film as well. It won 2 other Oscars as well. You'll also see the young Anthony Hopkins in the film. It is a delight. Finally, I do have a few runners-up. The Ruling Class from 1972 from the play by Peter Barnes of 1968, a fantastic film, also Peter O'Toole. The Women from 1939, based on the Claire Booth Luce play from 1936. Very funny, very clever film from the 30s. It's kind of a classic. And finally, kind of a weirdly one-off, Grease, the 1978 film based on the 1971 musical. Now, this one I cast off my list because it is so different. It's not really an adaptation. They kept the title, they kept a few songs, wrote an entire new story, new characters, new songs, and in fact, it's become so well known now that when they do the stage production, they actually put in things from the film. So the power of the cinema, right? In closing, the jury, of course, is still out on Wicked so far because we've only seen part 1 of that. Part 2 will be coming later this year. It's also in its own special category because there are 2 films based on 1 musical, based on a book, based on a film, based on a book, if you can follow all that. At any rate, I hope I see you at the theater, whether it's movie or stage, real soon. And if not, keep listening to Docking Bay 77, and I'll see you there.